Hello, and welcome to this week's Ask Coach Cam, where I answer your burning fat loss questions. And we're back at normal time this week, although England have progressed in the Euros, which is fantastic. So, we'll keep an eye on that, eh? It's coming home. So, earlier in the week, I asked people for their questions, and this is what we have this week. And the reason I've done this is based on the theory that if one of you out there wants to know the answer to a question, presumably there's lots others out there that also want to know the answer to the question. So we can help each other really by asking and answering questions on our collective fat loss journeys. If you want, you can ask questions while I'm streaming, and I'll try and get to them at the end. If not, I'll include them in next week's stream. Okay? So without further ado, let's get into the questions. And a brilliant question asked after last week's stream is from Dylan. And Dylan asks, who are you? It's a long story, really. I mean, I am, or was, am an engineer, still identify as an engineer, turned entrepreneur. So basically, while I was working as an engineer, I was running several businesses on the side. So I'd basically go to work 9 to 5, and then come back, sit down at my computer and work on some businesses, which made me extremely busy. And for a long time, I put my health on the back burner. I sort of said, okay, it's go time. I'm going to do whatever it takes to be a successful entrepreneur, run a successful business. And so, yeah, my health just got put on the back burner. I gained a lot of weight. In fact, I have a picture somewhere. Hold on. This is one I use on my website. There we go. So there you go. On the left, you've got Fat Me, and that picture was taken in 2019. And then you've got around 9 months later there on the right, me having lost a lot of the weight there. And yeah, the picture on the left there of Fat Me is basically the result of working myself to the bone, working really hard, being really busy, and not having time for health and fitness, or at least believing I didn't have time for health and fitness. Nowadays, I'm still an entrepreneur, but I'm also a qualified PT who now helps other busy people and professionals lose fat, get in shape, and sort of the reason I qualified as a PT is to help people not make the same mistakes I did to get to that picture on the left, but B, also to get health and weight back under control so people can perform at their best and hopefully help others look a bit more like the me on the right. And really that's what the 1% way is, or the 1% method is. It's a fat loss program for those whose time is a premium. There's tons and tons of people out there whose main catchphrase when it comes to fat loss is, I just don't have the time. I just don't have the time to get out there and lose fat. So that's why I've sort of created this program. I've embarked on this journey of helping others. And really this, along with other businesses that I run, this is kind of my way of trying to give back and help other people rather than trying to help myself, which was my goals initially. Now I'm much more focused on bringing something to other people. And what I can bring to the table is my experience in being a busy person and also losing fat at the same time, and how we go about achieving that. I could go more and further into the story and give my sales pitch or whatever, but I won't. I'll leave that for you guys to discover. You can go to the website www.the1percentway.com, and you can check out what I've got going on there. You can also check out www.cameronreedman.com, which has got some of my previous projects and experience and things like that on there. and a blog I used to run, things like that. So feel free to go and check those out, and I'll leave you to dig further if you want to dig further on that. So yeah, great question. Thank you, Dylan. That's who I am. So next question is from Natalie, who asks, I finally joined a gym. What are your recommendations for fat burning and toning? So really, I'm going to give a two-part answer to this question. The first part is perhaps a bit more negative, and then I'll get more positive in the second part of my answer. So yeah, to start the negative, I think one big thing people need to get out of their heads is we don't really burn fat during exercise. If we realize that it takes quite a long time to put fat on, I mean, it's long-term energy storage, right? Which means you got to imagine, if you imagine your body as a warehouse, easily accessible energy like carbohydrates and stuff that's already in your bloodstream is up front. It's up front of the warehouse. When we've got excess energy, we store it at the back of the warehouse. And then when we do exercise, our body demands energy immediately. We're not going to go to the back of the warehouse to get that energy. We're going to get the stuff from the front, get it out there, and use that first. And that's what we use during exercise. It's that quick access energy, okay? When we do use the stuff at the back is when our body is under less stress, less demand, and we've got more time to, we've got some time to go to the back and get some of that fat energy out of storage, okay? So another way to think of that is we burn fat at rest. I like to think of it as we burn fat in our sleep. I think that's the best way mentally to sort of process it. We burn fat in our sleep at the end of the day. And so what that means is that any exercise will burn fat if it's helping us to create a deficit, a caloric deficit. And I sort of explained this last week, but just very quickly, laws of energy conservation, energy in, energy out. If we've got more energy out to make up the gap, we're going to use some of that energy in fat storage, okay? And we're going to use that at rest in our sleep because it's less available. So any exercise you do will burn fat. For some, that's bad news for those who have been thinking they've been burning fat and then going to have a big meal afterwards and perhaps not being in a caloric deficit. It's a very common phenomenon. It's in a lot of research papers, is that what exercise actually does, it might cause us to potentially overeat after we've done exercise because we're so exhausted. We think we've earned it. We have the reward mentality. We think we've earned it, and then we overeat afterwards. If that's what's happening, I'm sorry to say, you're not going to lose fat. You have to be in a caloric deficit. So actually, a lot of the exercise I recommend is low intensity exercise, particularly if we're really worn down. Again, I run this for sort of busy people. So if we're really worn down, really exhausted, getting outside and going for a walk is the simplest way. Really low intensity, go for a walk, go for an hour, listen to a podcast, listen to an audio book, listen to nothing. Just get out in space, get away from everything, and just sort of, in fact, I go with my partner as well, and we have chats going around on the walk, and it's a great time, and it combines two things at once, which is also great for people whose time is a premium, because that allows me to have sort of, one-on-one time with my missus while also doing exercise. So those exercises are great. Exercise that you enjoy is the other one, and perhaps most importantly, exercise that you enjoy. So I use all kinds of, go dancing. Dancing is exercise. It's going to burn calories. I personally like to golf, so I'll hit the range on my lower intensity days, things like that. I'll hit the golf range, hit 100 balls, something like that. Great way to get out, get moving, sit less. That's the other thing that exercise helps us with. It helps us to sit less, which is a major problem when it comes to fat gain, is the amount of time that we're sitting. So those low intensity things get you out, get you stood up, get you moving, all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, to sum, I've already said it, but to sum up, the best way to lose fat is just be in a caloric deficit, however you want to create that. I jokingly It's not really much of a joke because my other business is Steel Viking Fitness, and you know, go sword fighting, go play. We don't play as much as adults. Go and do something fun. I mean, lots of people go and do airsoft on the weekends, things like that. That's a great example of exercise. However, knowing a few people who go airsoft, it's quite common to then eat a big meal and drink a load of beers afterwards. Now that can be fine because we can be exercising out those calories, but we need to be careful that we don't then go into a surplus of calories after we've just worked off a load of them. Okay, so if we're measuring things and we're going, okay, well, you know, 4 hours of airsoft running around, that's quite a lot of calories. You're sprinting a lot of the time, especially if you've got a tracker, something like that. You can probably track how many calories you're burning during that, and then you go, okay, well, I still want to be in a 500 kilocalorie deficit, so whatever I burned off minus 500, that's what I can eat afterwards and drink or whatever. There's no, I'm a big proponent of there's no good or bad foods necessarily. So long as we're in a deficit, we're going to lose fat. So to get to the second part of my answer, which is hopefully more helpful because you've been specific about the gym. And in all fairness, I do recommend the gym. I recommend resistance exercises. They come with their own set of benefits to cardio exercise, all that kind of stuff. And obviously, when we talk about energy out, we can even split that up. So we've got our basal metabolic rate, we've got the thermic effect of food, which is basically digestion, how much energy we burn off just digesting the food that we've eaten, and then we've got eat and neat, which is basically eat is your exercise activity, that you the calories you burn off during planned exercise. And neat is your kind of calories you get from moving about, you know, getting up from the chair, going to make a coffee, all those little things. They still burn off calories, right? They add up. So you got your neat, and your eat is specific to the exercise calories you burn off. Now, going back to the gym and resistance exercises, we have obviously doing that is going to increase your eat. It's planned exercise, but what it's also hopefully going to do in the long term is increase our basal metabolic rate, which we can increase by increasing our muscle mass. Our basal metabolic rate is basically the amount of calories it takes just to maintain our current body weight, and things like that. So, and muscle requires more energy to maintain than fat. So if we can build our muscle, that's going to help us in the long run for our fat loss journey. Also, it's going to help us in creating that physique that we want. You know, maybe tighten some things up, get rid of some of those bingo wings, all that kind of stuff. We posture as well. I recommend deadlifts and things like that for posture. Okay, so I really recommend doing some. Normally, I'd recommend the vast majority of exercise that you do comes from stuff that you enjoy. However, when you're in the gym, I do recommend getting some resistance exercise in there, and you can do that in a number of ways. But if we're trying to increase muscle mass, then what we want to do, if that's our goal, then the type of resistance exercise we want to do is hypertrophy, in the hypertrophy range of exercise. And all hypertrophy means is building muscle. Okay, so we've got muscular endurance, which is basically how long our muscles can work under a certain load, and something like CrossFit would do more muscular endurance, where we're doing rounds and sets of loads of press ups and free weight squats, all those kind of things, circuits. That's going to be more in the muscular endurance kind of range. Then we've got hypertrophy, which is more in a sort of 4 to 12 reps range, of 3 to 5 sets. And really on that last set, we want to be completely exhausted. And just for posterity, you have the strength training zone, which is where you do, fewer than 6 reps. And what we're trying to go for there is strength, not necessarily size. So we're trying to increase the strength. Now, all of those things kind of blend into the other. You know, if you're doing strength, you're going to increase your muscle size. If you're doing hypertrophy, you're going to get some muscular endurance, and you're going to increase your strength. And muscular endurance up this end, your strength will still increase, but obviously we're getting further away from that side of the spectrum, and you will see some increase in muscle size. And when people talk about toning as well, really that comes down to muscle size. So we want to work in a hypertrophy rep range, which, as I say, is 6 to 12 reps. So when you're planning a workout, 6 to 12 reps, that's where you want to be. 3 to 4 sets, okay? So that's the sort of rep range. In terms of the exercises you want to do, it really depends on where you're starting from. And to be honest, even with hypertrophy, you may want to start, if you are completely unconditioned to the gym, you may want to start in the muscular endurance range, because doing much lighter weight and more reps, and we can condition our body that way by starting in the muscular endurance zone and then progressing to a hypertrophy rep range, okay? So we might want to start in the muscular endurance and progress to hypertrophy, okay? And then once we're there in hypertrophy, really the way we structure a workout is we want almost a full body compound lift exercise. So this is our squats, our deadlifts, our bench press, or if you want to get real crazy with it, we can start doing some cleans and all those kind of things. If I'm doing, let's say my schedule is 3 gym sessions a week, I'll literally schedule it so I've got bench press, deadlifts and squats on 3 separate days. Once we've done that, then we can start to target more sort of individual muscle groups and things like that. So if we're doing squats, it's a leg day, so we might do some leg extensions, we might do some calf raises, we might do all manner of things. And again, if you're new to the gym, if you're brand new to the gym, the machines are a good option for that. However, I'd encourage you to get off the machines as quickly as possible. And that's because if you take squat, for example, the squat, the most similar machine to the squat is the leg press. So you might start off doing the leg press, but then as soon as possible, we want to progress to the squat. And the reason for that is the leg press is mostly working just those muscle groups in our leg. When we progress to the squat, a back squat, we've got the stabilizing muscles. So we've got, obliques, we've got our erector spinae, we've got all kinds of stuff getting involved with our core muscles, and we're just engaging all those muscles a little bit more, and we get more benefit from that exercise. And those stabilizing muscles, those are the kind of functional muscles that will help you in real life carry your shopping, all that kind of stuff. So if we could progress those compound exercises. Then when it comes to the other stuff, you can go for a bit for aesthetics. If I'm doing deadlifts, we usually call that a back and biceps day. So I'll do some back exercises, some biceps. And then going back to what I was saying before, we might want to do some stuff to help combat our lifestyle. So if you're sitting a lot in a chair, then we might want to do some posture exercises, some stuff that's good for our back. So face pulls are great for this, all that kind of stuff. So I can program you a gym workout. If you're doing it on your own, you're going to have to do a bit of searching on YouTube and Google and things like that. Watch videos. Form is very important. It's really important to get your form right. So go lightweight, work on your form to start with. And if you're using the machines, it will usually show you on the machines what muscle groups you're working. So you can go, okay, I really want to work out my rhomboids, which are those muscles at the back that can help bring our posture more upright. You can look at the machines that have got pictures of the rhomboids on and things like that. And you can Google rhomboids, okay, to check which muscles they are. So that's my advice there. I hope that helps. I recommend, if you're spending time in the gym, I recommend using 2 to 3 sessions at least to do some resistance exercise. Obviously, then we can use the machines to do some steady state cardio. I prefer to get outdoors to do that, just because it's nice being outdoors. And to be honest, I've trained myself and conditioned myself to run in the rain. Or things like that, and I enjoy it, to be honest, especially after last summer we had some heat waves and things like that. It was pretty horrendous running in that heat, So now I'm pretty grateful when it's raining for a nice cooling spritz. And yeah, I just enjoy it, being out in nature. If you've got some good running routes around you, it's a real great opportunity to get out there. So yeah, really roundabout answer there. But I hope that answers your question, Natalie. Okay, and we've got time for, I think, one more. We've got Raj. Should I do keto? No. uh, I mean, this is one of those things. If it works, if you find it works for you, do it. Because if it works and it's working, then fine, we can go forward with it. Do you need to do keto to lose fat? Absolutely not. If anything, it's kind of, I mean, keto is basically, it's just a low carb diet, and it's essentially a rebranding of the Atkins diet. And there's loads of studies out there about the low carb nature of the Atkins diet, all that kind of stuff. And really what I say about a lot of diet plans is the reason they're working is they're putting you in a caloric deficit. Okay. That's what we talked about earlier. That's how you lose fat. Fat is energy storage. To get rid of it, we have to be using more energy than we're consuming. That way we can tap into those energy stores. So it doesn't, if I eat, 10 kilos of cheese, we're not going to achieve that, are we? So, if keto is going to work for that, but also a lot of us here are busy people, right? And we need some of those carbohydrates to keep us fueled throughout the day, to keep us mentally sharp throughout the day, all that kind of stuff. If they say advanced keto is 25 grams of carbs and normal keto is 50 grams of carbs or whatever. That's just too low in my book. I do recommend for a lot of people getting more proteins and fats in their diet, but that doesn't mean at the detriment to carbs, and I think culturally at the minute, carbs have become a real bad guy. And again, in fairness, maybe we do want to eat less refined carbohydrates. We want some more complex carbohydrates, which are basically, they take a bit longer to break down. They last a bit longer in the system. So we can do that by switching, for example, from white bread to whole wheat bread, or ditching bread altogether and choosing, fresh fruits and vegetables and things like that. Okay, so yes, it probably will help us to have less refined carbs, and that's usually what it's doing for people. That's usually what keto is doing. We're eating less sweets, we're eating less white bread, all those kind of things that are really calorie dense. They're not that filling, and so we find that we can put more on our plate when we're not eating those calorie dense foods. So it can help. There's definitely lessons that can be learned from keto. All right, one of the big ones, obviously, is that fats have become the bad guy. Over the past, how old is Atkins? Since the 80s, fats have been the bad guy. You've got low fat products everywhere on the shelf. What keto tells us is that fats aren't the bad guy that we've made them out to be. Okay, it's actually important that we get lots of healthy fats in our diet. And those fats can be filling, whatever. Fats aren't the bad guy. And actually, with a lot of low-fat products, usually what they do to replace those yummy fats is they replace them with sugar. So we're substituting a fat that takes longer to break down, stays in our system longer, gives us that longer sustaining energy. Okay, we're getting rid of that and replacing it with sugar, which is a refined carbohydrate. It's going to spike our insulin levels, okay, and we're maybe going to crash later. So that low-fat yogurt is absolutely useless. Have the fat yogurt, okay? Fats aren't the bad guy. But in general, should you do keto? No. You can eat any food you want, just be in a caloric deficit. That's the answer. That's it. That's all you need to know, okay? If there's one thing I can get through to people, it's that all you need to lose fat is to be in a caloric deficit. So whatever helps you eat fewer calories, that's the diet for you, okay? So I hope that answers your question, Raj. Good question. Thank you very much. Okay, that's all for today. So don't forget to share this video with your friends or in any groups where you feel it might help people. Okay, make sure you subscribe and hit anything notification bells, things like that. Or you can head over to the website that I mentioned earlier, www.the1percentway.com, to subscribe there. Good luck with your fat loss transformations, and I'll catch you same time, same place next week.